I work in a pro department of a home improvement company, and I usually work in a closing shift with another cashier named Nicole. Nicole is really kind but quite timid, and she's also very pretty, which means a lot of contractors hit on her. It's usually not too concerning, a few compliments or maybe a dinner invite, which she politely declined. I'd probably ask her out too if it weren't for one detail. Nicole has a girlfriend. Being hit by guys every day makes her pretty uncomfortable. When we first met, I suggested she should tell them she's gay, but she always said it wasn't any of their business, so she kept that part to herself. Nicole has become my best friend, and having another cashier with you during the shift keeps things from getting lonely. We even cover each other's lunch break. One day, when I returned from lunch, Nicole started telling me about a rather creepy guy who had been flirting with her. She said she politely turned him down, explaining she was with someone already. While he didn't seem happy, he did leave. I shrugged it off as just another annoying guy and laughed it off. However, later that day, the man returned. Nicole wasn't there at the time, as she was helping a customer find some lumber, so it was just me. He looked fairly normal, probably attractive to most women, but his behavior was off. After looking around the area, I asked him if I could help him with anything. He told me he was there to see Nicole. When I asked how he knew her, he said he had come in earlier and asked her out, and she had said yes. So he was back to pick her up. I lied and told him she had left for the day. The smile disappeared, and he started looking annoyed. He insisted he wanted to speak with Nicole and ask her out again, contradicting what he had just told me about her accepting his previous invite. I told him he couldn't do that, which made him cross his arm and ask why not. At the best at lying on the spot, but I didn't want to reveal Nicole's sexuality if she didn't want it known, so I blurted out Nicole was my fiancée. His annoyed look turned into confusion as he asked how someone as pretty as her could be with someone like me. I'm not Jason Momoa or anything, but I don't think I'm that bad looking. I told him it didn't matter and that we'd be getting married in a couple of months, so he needed to back off. He gave me a death stare, but didn't say anything and left after an awkward silence. When Nicole returned, I told her what happened. She asked me to describe him, and after I did, she confirmed it was the same guy who had come before. She was a bit creeped out by the innocent, but found the fiancé excuse rather funny. She even said she rather to engage to me rather to go out with him, which I took as a compliment. A couple of weeks went by, and we had almost forgotten about the man. One night, after it had gotten dark, Nicole and I were getting the trash together so we could close the register and go home. Suddenly, we heard a bang at the door, causing both of us nearly jump out of our skins. It was the guy again, and he had a wild look in his eyes as he kept his face pressed against the glass. We're closed, I told him, but he insisted he needed to come in. Nicole yelled that she wasn't interested and told him to go away and leave her alone. But he shouted back that he wasn't there for her. He was there for me. He then said that he if could take out her husband, she'd be all his. He wanted to kill me. I told Nicole to run to the manager's office and call the police while I was stayed there to watch him. I won't lie, I was pretty afraid to be in that tiny area if he managed to get in. He wasn't the biggest guy, but he could have had a weapon. Plus, the store didn't allow us to have a self-defense item, so I was on my own. The guy started ramming the sliding door like a maniac. The doors were rattling and I was sure they were going to come off their base. Just then, Nicole come running back around the corner with a 2x4 in her hand. Just then, Nicole come running around back at the corner with a 2x4 in her hand, yelling that the cops were on their way. Finally, the man decided to leave. The closing manager met to the officers when they arrived and took them to review the cameras. Thankfully, the man was caught and arrested. But Nicole and I no longer felt safe working there. We were still friends and we even attend the same college, but we'd have different jobs now while we pay our... but we have different jobs now while we pay our true classes. But we have different jobs now while we pay our way through classes. I'm glad she was there to help me with that crazy guy, because I hate to imagine what he might because I hate to imagine what he might have done to me, or worse, what he might done to her. She says she's glad I was there to help her as well. She says she's glad I was there for her as well. She says she's glad. She says she's glad I was there for her as well. As having a guy around tends to make him. As having a guy around tends to make men like him less confident in their actions. It was a wake-up call for me about how dangerous it can be for some girls when a persistent guy can take. باورم نمیشه دارم مغزم از دست میدم It was a wake-up call for me about how dangerous it can be for some girls when a persistent guy just won't take no for an answer. I used to work at a hotel in our town, and I regret ever taking that job. A few months back, a hurricane hit our town hard, leaving many houses badly damaged. As a result, a lot of people had to leave the area. The hotel, a typical bed and breakfast type, where they served with scrambled eggs, frozen sausage, and assorted cereals, was about a 20-minute walk from my house. I'm keeping the town and hotel name confidential to avoid any connections. Right after the hurricane, the hotel had a busy month as many people were displaced from their homes. But soon, things became quieter than before. I worked night shift from 6 p.m. to 2. I worked the night shift from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. After, which someone else took over until around 10 or 11 a.m. At the time, we had only about 9 rooms occupied, which wasn't a lot. I could go the entire night without seeing anyone. There was a back break room for employees, equipped with a coffee machine, fridge, table, and a couple of sofa-type chairs. The employee bathroom was also back there. I spent most of my time in that room. At night, a bell at the front desk would ring if anyone needed something. One night, while I was in the back, I heard a deep voice from the lobby saying hello repeatedly. I got up and went to the front desk. There, a man stood on the other side of the glass barrier, which had an opening about 10 inches high at the bottom. He asked for towels, so I grabbed a couple of extra towels and slid them under the glass. He took them rather aggressively, shot me a weird look, and walked towards the room. I sat in the lobby, watching him on the camera. He moved down the hallway, looking around. He moved down the hallway, looking around strangely, and then started rubbing the towels on his face. What in the world? I muttered. He then got into the elevator, and I returned into the break room. About 10 minutes later, I heard his voice again. He was back, claiming his keycard was broken. I asked for his room number, and he gave me something like 2C, which was odd since our rooms only had numbers. I knew he was lying. Sir, our rooms don't have letters. Are you sure you are staying here? I asked. His response was terrifying. He threw the towels on the floor, smiled creepily, and pressed his face against the glass. I'm going to kill you, he said, and repeated it louder each time until it was a scream. I yelled back, I'm calling the police, and picked up the phone, showing him as I dialed 911. He mocked me, laughing, and walked out slowly. I told the dispatcher he was leaving. When he was gone, I told her I didn't need an officer to come. The next few hours dragged by. I decided to stay in the lobby instead of the break room. One guest checked in during this time, and around 2 a.m., my relief arrived. I clocked out and left. Outside, it was cold, and I regretted not bringing a coat. As I walked through the parking lot with my hands in my pocket and my hood up, I heard a voice. It came from the bushes that lined the first floor windows of the hotel. I ignored it. I walked faster. Once I was in the main road, it was silent with no cars around. After a minute, I turned onto a residential street heading towards my block. The only sound was my shoes hitting the pavement. Then I heard someone else's footsteps running softly behind me. When I turned around, they stopped. A car was parked nearby, and I sensed someone hiding behind it. I heard laughing, followed by a familiar voice whispering, "I'm going to kill you." Without seeing him, I knew it was the same man. I couldn't outrun him in my work shoes, so I looked at the nearest house. Its upstairs light was on. I ran towards it, screaming for help. I rang the doorbell frantically, and just then, the man grabbed me and started choking me, whispering, "Die." In that moment, I thought my life was over. But then, the front door opened and the man shouted, "Hey!" The attacker released his grip and I fell onto the ground. The man from the house helped me inside, gave me water and called the police. I explained everything to them. They collected the CCTV footage from the hotel and began searching for the man. Later, I was called to the police station to identify him in a lineup. Despite looking at all 5 suspects for several minutes, I couldn't recognize any of them. To this day, I worry that I might have let that dangerous man go free. I worry that I might have let that dangerous man go free.